How's it going, Euro Football Daily? And today we have 10 game-changing moments in the history of the sport. 10. The first international match. It's as much as a part of football as slide tackles and bad refereeing, but international football got off to a bad start. Scottish newspapers had challenged the English FA to take on the Highlanders back in 1970, and a series of 5 internationals were arranged, with England winning 3 and 2 ending in draws. However, the Scottish side was mostly made up of Londoners, and understandably the Scots were displeased, with Queen's Park, the biggest club in the country, deciding to take matters into their own hands. 11 of their players faced off against English teams drawn from 9 separate clubs in the first official international game in 1872. 4,000 people crowded into Hamilton Crescent full of national pride, only to watch the teams play out a dull 0-0 draw. Some things never change. 9. The first goalkeepers. The original rules of football didn't actually specify the position of the goalkeeper, and early forms of the game often used rush keepers, where the nearest person to goal would jump between the sticks. In 1871, the position was made official, which must have made life miserable for tall players, as they were immediately relegated to goalie. 14 years later, William Sykes was granted a patent for the leather goalkeeping glove, but it took until the 40s for them to catch on, with Argentinian stopper Armando Carrizo the first to wear them. In 1912, keepers were prohibited from handling the ball outside the penalty area. We have no idea what was going on before that, and the penalty spot was introduced. Previously, players could take the kick at any point along a line 12 yards from goal, and from that, the modern pitch was born. 8. The first World Cup. Before 1930, the only prestigious international football tournament was the Olympics, but football was not yet a full Olympic sport, with no medals being awarded until 1908. That year, Great Britain took home the gold, and the success of the event over the next 2 decades convinced FIFA to kick off their own competition. With Uruguay having won successive Olympic golds, FIFA gave them the honour of hosting the World Cup in 1930. 13 nations played, with only 4 from Europe: Belgium, Romania, Yugoslavia and France. Uruguay added another trophy to their collection by beating Argentina 4-2 in the final, and the revenue allowed FIFA to build its power over the global game. 7. The first openly gay footballer. Justin Fashanu and his brother John turned professional in the late 1970s, both joining Norwich City as forwards. Though John went on to great success with Wimbledon, Justin was the better prospect, becoming the first black footballer to cost £1 million when he moved to Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest in 1981. Justin was gay, and when Clough found out, he barred the player from training with the first team. He was soon shipped off to Notts County, where an injury threatened to end his career. It was only in 1990 that Fashanu finally revealed his secret to the public, becoming the first openly gay footballer, and he suffered abuse from fans, while struggling to find a club that would take him on. Called an outcast by his brother, Justin committed suicide in 1998 after being accused of sexual assault in the US. Though only a handful of players have come out since, one day a footballer's sexuality will be of no consequence, and history will trace that back to Fashanu. 6. The first European Cup. It's arguably the biggest prize in football, but the European Cup only came into being in 1955. A French journalist called Jacques Ferrand travelled to Chile in the late 1940s to cover a South American tournament of champions, the competition which later turned into the Copa Libertadores. Impressed by what he had seen, Ferrand and his editor at L'Equipe, Gabriel Hanot, put a proposal to UEFA for a similar cup in Europe. The continent's best clubs would regularly play each other in pre-season friendlies, with Wolverhampton Wanderers declaring themselves champions of the world after beating Hungary's Honved in 1954. But Hanot and Ferrand wanted something official, and the European Cup officially began. Today, the Champions League final attracts 200 million viewers around the world. In creating a competition for Europe, Hanot and Ferrand made a truly global tournament. 5. First video review. Despite the objections of a million middle-aged dipshit ex-pros, technology is coming to football, and it might not even be a bad thing. Goal line assistance without a doubt has improved the Premier League, and it seems that full video review is on its way as well. In 2016, France beat Italy in a friendly 3-1, and for the first time the referee, Bjorn Kuipers, was able to consult a video assistant. According to Kuipers, the players accepted the decisions more easily, and further tests are expected to come over the coming months. Though progress is slow, officials may soon be able to see the same replays as viewers at home. It's another small step in a game which hates change. 4. first women professionals. Football was meant to reward talent and merit, but until about 40 years ago, half of the world's population was unable to play the sport professionally. Remarkably, Italy, not exactly famous for their progressive views towards women, was the first country to pay female players, starting a league which paid some of its footballers part-time in the early 70s. It's hardly surprising the women's game took so long to get off the ground. Matches between women had been popular as early as the 1920s, attracting crowds in excess of 50,000. But the FA felt that the sport was unsuitable for women and banned men's clubs from sharing their grounds with their female counterparts, only lifting the prohibition in 1971. By the mid-80s, the USA had started up a women's national team, and Japan instituted a semi-pro division. The Women's World Cup was created in 1991 and now has 24 participating countries. Women's football is here to stay. 3. The first £1 million player. Paul Pogba's £89 million fee set a new high for transfer fees in 2016, almost equalling the £90 million which Juventus' new stadium cost to build. But it actually took until 1975 for a player to cost more than £1 million, and the first person to pass that figure was Giuseppe Salvoldi. The Italian striker scored 85 in 201 games for Bologna, and the Napoli paid £2 billion lire to bring him to their club, the equivalent of £1.2 million. That dwarfed the £922,000 Barcelona paid for Johan Cruyff 2 years earlier. And Salvoldi also outscored the Dutchman, hitting 55 in 118 games over 4 years with the Partenopi. By 1992, the record transfer stood at £12 million, and there have since been 34 players who have cost more than £35 million. And Salvoldi's transfer fee today would pay for just 2 weeks of Carlos Tevez' salary at Shanghai Shenhua. 2. The first Premier League season. The Premier League took over from the old First Division in 1992, giving the England's top teams independence from the FA and the Football League. That meant that the top flight could negotiate their own deals with broadcasters and commercial sponsors, and the money began to pour in. Back in 1988, broadcasters paid £11 million a year to show Premier League games, but with Sky and BT taking football off terrestrial networks, the rights to show Premier League games now cost £1.7 billion a year. Meanwhile, Manchester United, valued at £20 million in 1989, have since risen to value over £2.2 billion. That's 110 times as much. The bottom place team now earns around £100 million from TV rights alone, and that number will surely continue to rise. The era of the Premier League financial dominance is here, but whether that will translate onto the pitch remains to be seen. 1. The first black footballer. Arthur Walton was no ordinary footballer. Born in Gold Coast, the old name for Ghana, Walton's mother was Ghanaian royalty, and though Arthur was originally intended to become a Christian minister, he decided to pursue a career in the sport in England instead. Walton played cricket for Yorkshire and Lancashire and ran the 100-yard sprint in 10 seconds in 1886, equaling the world record. But he ensured his place in history when he became the first black footballer to turn professional, playing for Preston North End and Sheffield United. Usually a winger due to his pace, Walton also deputised in goal, once saving a shot by leaping up onto the crossbar and grabbing the ball between his legs. He eventually died penniless, but a statue of him now stands in the FIFA headquarters, and he changed football forever. So they were our 10 footballing firsts, and if you've got any more, why don't you stick them down in the comments below? And if you've enjoyed that, check out Stat Wars with Chris and Pat. And as always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.